Thanks for joining us for our Savvy Ladies webinar. My name is Maggie Montemuro, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator at Savvy Ladies. If you have a question during the presentation, please type it into the chat window. If you're joining us by phone, you can email your question to info@savvyladies.org. Today's presenter is Tania Sterl, founder of Sterl on Style, a complete image consulting, personal shopping, and styling service. We're excited to get some tips on how to resell items in our closet to make a profit. Thanks for your time today, Tania, and let's get started.
Thanks for having me. All right, ladies. Spring cleaning is in the air. Have any of you dug into your closets yet to switch them over and to find things that maybe are no longer serving you? So it's time to see how you can make a little profit out of editing things from your closet. So why should you resell? What are the benefits? Well, first of all, you're going to be clearing room in your closet for something new. So I know it's not a very fun task to go through your own closet and edit it. That's why I love doing that with my clients. But think of it as clearing room in your closet for something new and then also making a profit so that you can buy that something new. And by new in quotation marks, it could be buying something from a resale shop that maybe someone wore once or twice, but now it feels new to you. The other advantage to reselling is avoiding paying full price at retail. So that's also saving you money. So by dropping off to resale, you can also shop resale and avoid paying full price, thus saving money. And ultimately, this is going to create clarity and relief in your closet and a little happiness in your wallet for a little more spending money. Think of it as turning your trash to treasures. And as you look through your own closet for trash versus treasures, think of this as the criteria. I just want to give you these really quick tips. If you are going through and trying to decide, what could I actually resell that's from my closet and make a little profit? So as you look at your clothes, does it bring you joy? If it's not making you happy anymore, no reason to wear it. There's also the guilt factor, right? You may have gotten a gift from someone else that just, it just wasn't you and you feel guilty. Oh, I can't get rid of this beautiful monogrammed crocheted hand knit sweater. But if it just isn't you, it's staying in your closet and it's not bringing you joy. There's also a guilt factor, right? You bought that thing, the tags are still on it, now you can't return it and you haven't worn it. So just forgive yourself and know that you can bring it in and resell it for a little profit. So try not to feel so guilty. Stagnation. If you have items in your closet that are getting very stagnant, you haven't worn them in over 2 years, time to leave it. It's got to be a love. Size. Now I know this is a sensitive issue because a lot of we women, we go up a size, we go down a size, we can fluctuate anywhere from 10 pounds to 50 pounds. But if the size isn't right and you haven't worn it in 2 years, time to let it go. If it doesn't fit, if it's too tight or too loose, if it's one size up or down, you might be able to get it altered. But again, you got to love it or leave it. So size does matter in this case. And also fresh. Do you put it on and just feel like you're kind of refreshed and new and confident? So if you're going to be looking at your closet for resale items, you got to play love it or leave it. Now, here are some things to consider before you resale. The resale market, I've noticed, is getting even more critical of an eye. They're not accepting as much as they used to. So just some things to think about is the season. Before you bring in, you cannot bring in a quilted winter coat to a resale shop right now in the middle of May. So I hope your pen and paper is ready. As a general rule, and this varies shop to shop. So you always want to call your resale shop first and ask them, what season are you buying? Spring, they usually start buying in March. That includes trench coats, lightweight tops, dresses, and lightweight sweaters, knit tops, pants, sandals, etc. Summer, they usually start to buy closer to May. You'll notice that retail stores will have spring in as early as January. Summer is in stores now. Resale shops buy a little closer to season, so pay attention to that. Fall, they'll start buying in September, and winter, they'll start buying in October. That's the real heavy goods, like your down coats, your shearling, and your winter boots. So look at the season so you don't schlep that huge bag of clothes and then they're like, don't look at half of it because you have a winter coat stuffed in there in the middle of May. Also consider how old or new and the era it's from. So you'll notice websites will refer to modern clothing. These are really recent purchases, only from 1 to 3 years back. That goes for low-end trendy, mid-level to contemporary, which we're going to talk about these categories. So if you see the word modern being used, they're referring to things bought in the last 1 to 3 years. So consider the era. If you have some items, this is going to sound crazy. If you have some items from the 90s is now starting to be considered vintage. I know, fall off your chair because I was born in 1972 and I don't feel like the 90s was that far back, but I wore my 1989 New Order t-shirt to a concert and a young woman said, "Oh, wow, I love your vintage t-shirt." And I was like, wow, okay. So if you have the items in your closet from the 1920s, you may have things handed down from your grandmother or your mother, or things from the 1990s, they're considered vintage. So we're going to go through what you should take to a resale shop and what should be considered a vintage shop. So really consider how old it is of what you're bringing in. Okay, condition. You have to look at the condition of what you're bringing in before you bring it in. High-end clothing, your Gucci, your Pradas must be in excellent condition. Mid-level to contemporary, look for things that aren't too pilled, aren't too worn out, things that aren't torn, with the exception of jeans. Torn jeans happen to be very trendy right now, so some resale shops might take that. If you have very obvious stains or they're permanently wrinkled, most resale shops will not take these items, okay? So look at the condition. Shoes need to be clean inside, the heels not too worn or torn, the holes have no soles. And also beware, if you put Dr. Scholl's insoles in them and you take them out and a little like foam or glue is left over, they won't take them. So just make sure they're very clean inside and out. Handbags, no ink marks, no frayed edges, and the linings must be intact. Bags and shoes in real leather will sell more. They have more value than faux leather. So be very careful when you're getting ready to bring in all your faux leather bags and shoes. The stores really look more for real leather and you're going to get more for them. And as a bonus, okay, it was that guilty purchase. If the tag is still on, even better, you're going to make more money on shoes and clothes that were never worn and the tags are still on it. And just a word of warning, any clothing that you have that's beyond repair, that's really worn, stained, or torn, just, you're not going to be able to resell it. And just think, Goodwill, Housing Works, people that shop these stores, even though you're donating it, they're still people. They don't want things that are worn and torn beyond repair. So if you had everything worn and torn beyond repair, consider recycling. And just Google online, recycling clothes. There might be a drop-off in your neighborhood. I know in Brooklyn, they have a drop-off at Prospect Park, Brooklyn. So if it's beyond repair, consider recycling it instead. And then it's a feel-good because you just save the environment from throwing it into a landfill. Okay, now you're getting ready to take it to the resale shop. What do the buyers look for? And let me tell you, every buyer is very different. I even go to Second Time Around in New York, and the buyers in Chelsea buy it differently than the Nolita location, buy it differently from the Upper West Side location. So now you've gone through your clothes, you looked at the era of the season, if it's high end, low end, or mid-level, which we're going to go through. Now you're like, okay, what is this resale shop buyer really looking for? So if you're going to be going to the stores, each buyer's eye is very different. So get to know the shop and the owner and ask them, what do they look for? I know one store, they don't even take belts. They only take handbags and shoes, and they don't even take belts. Some of them look for more feminine, frilly, ruffly items. Some of them look for more sleek. So really get to know the shop and the owner and just ask them, like, what are they really looking for? What are they pining for? Go in and shop yourself and look what they carry from month to month to see if what you own fits in. If they don't carry a lot of print and pattern in the shop, then don't bring in print and pattern. If you look around and you don't see a lot of black suits, they probably won't be buying your black suit. So really look around and see what they carry before you haul that bag of clothes in and wasted your time. That's for stores. So also online resale consignments, they like looking for contemporary to designer labels. I've been noticing this trend that they do look more for the contemporary to designer labels. So we're going to be going down a hit list on that. And just know that once you take it to the store, whatever they don't buy, you can take it to a Goodwill or a Housing Works and get a tax deduction. So you're giving back to get back. So you'll even save a little bit on your taxes because it's considered charity. So make sure to save that receipt. All right. We're going to go into the 4 levels of the resale market. You've got high-end luxury designer. You've got mid-range contemporary. You have low-end mass market. You also have vintage and thrift, which is a little bit different. We're going to talk about consignment versus resale, the pros and cons to selling online versus in-store, how to navigate websites and stores yourself to find a real deal, and I'm going to give you some websites and valuable resources along the way. Consignment versus resale. Okay, consignment. You are going to profit after the item is sold. Resale, they usually buy outright. So the difference between consignment and resale, you're going to profit quicker from resale than consignment. Consignment, it can take 1 to 3 months for them to sell it in store. So consignment in store versus online, think about it. Your local shop, how many people go in there a day? Maybe 10 people a day, 7 days a week. So they're probably getting 70 people, maybe more on the weekends. If you consign online, you're reaching thousands to millions of people. So consignment online on average sells quicker than in store because you're reaching a larger audience. Online consignment, the website manages the sales for you and issues you a payment after the item is purchased by the buyer. Resale stores, you bring it in, they'll either cut you a check right there or they'll give you a store credit. Online is up to you. Whether you decide to post it online yourself, you'll control when it posts, and after it sells and ships it to them, you'll get the profit. So just know consignment takes a little longer. Resale, most likely you'll get a little more money up front and sooner. So again, resale online works 2 ways. You can post your own item and determine your price point, let's say on an eBay or an Etsy. Whereas an online seller, and there's plenty of them, Tradesy, ThreadUp, I'm going to be giving you resources, they do the selling for you. They determine the price point and you'll get the cut after it's sold. And again, resale brick and mortar shops, they tend to sell prices a little lower because they want them to sell quicker. And consignment will take longer to sell and they know the value of it. So it might take longer to sell, but you might actually get a little bit more money on it. So places like Second Time Around, The Real, I've been having a lot of success buying on The Real. You can get Gucci, Prada, Cavalli. Oh my gosh, for the prices that I'm finding Ann Taylor. I found a Roberto Cavalli silk top for $69 on The Real. And these are good resources to check out online. They will list the designers that they accept. They'll also list the criteria that they will accept. So do your research before you take it in store or before you ship it in online for someone else to sell it for you. Look at the website. It's all there, the information you need. Let's just go down the categories really quick. High-end luxury designer. These are labels like Burberry, Miu Miu, Dolce & Gabbana, and the edgy ones too, like Rodarte. We're talking high-end. This is your retail from $450 and up. Purses like Chanel bags, oh my gosh, are the most coveted right now. I can't even find a resale Chanel bag for less than $1,000 right now. So the high-end luxury designer market are absolutely these labels. Shoes like Jimmy Choo and Louboutin. You can find some really great deals online on The Real for this category, but just know that the designers they accept are also the same. So why the heck would you just resale designer? It could be that, oh my gosh, you're just a total fashionista and now you're coveting, you know, the next new fabulous designer Prada handbag that just came out in the new color. So this is where you can recycle and take that old Louis Vuitton and trade it in for that new trendy handbag that you just can't live without. So reselling designer is up to you. It could be that you're a total fashionista and you just need the newest new. Some of you, that Louis Vuitton is classic and timeless and you'll have it for the next 20 years. So this is a matter of personal taste of why to resell luxury. Here's just a little breakdown for you. You got that handbag. You want to make some money off of it. I'm going to be totally upfront with you. You're not making the $1,000 that you paid for it. So I brought in for one of my clients a Reed Krakoff bag. She paid about $1,200. The store is going to sell it for about $550. You're going to make $275. I know everyone's jaws just dropped right now. So have my clients, but that's why I'm doing this webinar. That's why Savvy Ladies said, you know what, let's get down to the real of what goes on in the resale market. You may have bought it for $1,200, but you're going to get $275. Now the advantage is you can shop that store and look for another designer bag for $550. You can use that $275 for that designer bag. So you're going to be getting a $1,200 bag for $275 if you use your store credit. All right, little breakdown there for you. Places to sell online, Tradesy. Just note that all sales are final. The Real, and again, ladies, whether you're selling or buying, be sure you read the fine print. Always check the shipping and return policy. You don't want to be stuck with something that you cannot return. The Real allows 14 days, so they're great to work with. Tradesy, all sales are final. In-store resale shops, brick and mortar. Here in New York, there's one called Ina, who takes the high-end resale. If you're in St. Louis, there's a store they featured on Resale Royalty. I don't know if any of you listening are from that area, and it's called the Women's Closet Exchange. And if you're in and around Dallas, there's a shop called the Uptown Consignment that was featured on Big Rich, Texas. So again, just Google online to find your local store. What is considered mid-range, right? Mid-range, trendy, contemporary, retail prices from about $99 to $6.99. Think of labels like Diane von Furstenberg, Helmut Lang Vince, denim brands like J Brand AG, leather items, real leather, and shoe brands like Cole Haan, Vince, Kate Spade. All right, this is considered mid-range, trendy, contemporary. So how will you profit from these? Again, this gets broken down to that resale. My client had a brand new Diane von Furstenberg dress. She paid $495 for it. She bought it without me. It was before we met, and it wasn't right for her. It was a little too tight, a little too small. The dress was $495. The resale shop is going to sell it for $195. You get a percentage. She's going to get either $58.50 store credit or $39 cash. So this is why you got to shop smart from the beginning also, because that $495 dress, you're either going to get $58 store credit or $39 cash. Again, the advantage of that is the same store might have a dress for $58 that you can then buy for your store credit. So you're getting a $495 dress for $58. So that's the way to profit. But again, look at the breakdown. You're not getting full price when you go to resale. And on average, they offer anywhere between 30 to 50% off. You are going to have to drop off a bag. Some of them look through it within the hour. Others you can drop off overnight and they'll look at it overnight. So just want to give you a reality check. That's the breakdown for buying full price to reselling. So where to resell the mid-range to contemporary? There's a great website called ThredUp. You can send them the whole bag. Then they determine what they can resell it for online, and they let you know. Whatever they can't sell online will donate to charity, but you'll receive an online credit to resale on their website or a PayPal credit. So their site is super sleek. They do all the photo retouching, and they upload and feature the items for you. So other websites like eBay, you have to do that all yourself. If you're just the type who's like, oh my God, I can't deal with this, send the whole bag to them. They'll go through it, they'll sort it, and they'll let you know. In store for this range, there's a chain called Crossroads Trading Company. They're in cities like Portland, Seattle, Chicago, San Francisco. So again, just Google it and find your nearest store. But ThredUp, again, they're going to save you the time and effort from having to resell it yourself. So it might be worth it. Okay, low-end trendy category. These are price points from $29 to $99. Think of clothing labels like H&M, The Limited, jeans like Levi's or Gap, shoes from Nine West, Bandolino, and Klein, handbags from Nine West, Aldo, Guess, and Tangelo. How are you going to profit? Okay, this range. How do you know whether to sell low-end or trendy? Okay. This is usually you bought it, it turned around fast, so why resell the trendy? I find this category is like those impulse buys or the things you bought in your 20s and now you're 30 and they just don't suit you anymore. So look at these items because trends happen fast and those are the things to resell, or you may just have outgrown them and they're a little too cutesy. How to profit from the low end. Ladies, this is a numbers game. You saw the breakdown of what you're going to profit high end, right? From $1,200 to $275. Then mid-range, that $495 DBF dress, you might get about $30 or $60. Price points from $29 to $99, it's all about a numbers game. So this is quantity. Bring in a bag, they may sift through it and buy only half of what you bring in or less. Don't be disappointed. Clothing in this price point goes out of style faster, and it also gets worn out faster too because of the quality. So be prepared to drop off what doesn't sell to Goodwill or Housing Works and get a receipt for tax deduction. But here's just a quick calculation. Okay, you're bringing in your bag of Gap jeans, $19, and most of the items in your bag are around that price point. You'll get about 30% of that price point or about 50% store credit. So break it down like this, ladies. You got a bag of about 30 items. They may buy 10. They're going to retail them for about $19 each. So you'll make about $57 cash or $95 store credit. Not bad considering if you get a $95 store credit, you'll be buying a pair of pants for $9 to $10. I can't even tell you, I went into Housing Works with $40 just to put this to the test. I was like, what can I find for $40? I found 2 pair of pants on the $5 rack and a brand new pair of Zara pants that were $79 for $10. So it's really interesting what you can do at these resale shops. Okay, so those low-end trendy things, where can you resell it? Online. There's a place called Twice. Again, you send in the whole bag and they actually just buy the whole lot for an average amount. ThredUp that I also mentioned earlier will also, you send in the bag and they determine it. Again, go on these websites and look at what they're already selling and compare it to what you want to sell before you send the bag in. If you're looking for stores to resell, places like Buffalo Exchange have places in New York, LA, Chicago. So again, do your research online. Jewelry is a whole other category. If you have very high-end coveted things like Van Cleefs and Arpels, consider places like Circa in New York. You make an individual appointment, they appraise it for you and let you know how much to get. But again, all the websites I mentioned before, you have to break down your jewelry by if it's mid-range, contemporary, vintage, or low-end trendy. This also goes for your shoes and handbags. So there is a way to profit from the jewelry as well. Okay, real quick, because we're running out of time. Vintage or thrift. True vintage, 1920s through 1980s. Some stores go back as far as 1920s, like I said, 1990s. Anything before the 1920s, ladies, is considered museum quality. So you might want to reach out to like the Fashion Institute of Technology. They have a museum. My cousin in Illinois, her wedding dress was actually featured at the Chicago Art Institute because they were looking for wedding dresses featured during the 60s of Jackie O. So if you have really coveted pieces, consider lending them for museums, or know that you're going to get a lot more for anything before the 20s. Criteria for vintage takes a very, very trained eye, even more of a trained eye than I have. So I was going to say, thanks to movies like American Hustle, vintage in the 70s has become popular. So again, build a good relationship with your local vintage shops, do some research online, talk to an expert. So if you have a dress from the 1960s, don't just take it to your low-end shop and get 10 bucks for it. These are really coveted items. There's a whole vintage market that you can search for. There's a Manhattan vintage show that happens a couple times a year. Really be careful with your items that are older than the 1990s. You can get a lot more money for them. Why sell vintage? If it's a hand-me-down, it might be very precious to you. So consider if you're comfortable letting go of family history, or if you only wear the piece once a year or never. It might be taking up unnecessary space in your closet and your mind. If you're holding on to too many items and have no room for them, they could be better served elsewhere. Jewelry that has been handed down can carry a lot of meaning as well. I know I have my great-grandmother's necklace that I will never part with. So just think twice and think wisely before reselling your vintage. These are really unique pieces that you can make modern again. I wear my vintage necklace with some very modern tops. And every time I wear that necklace from my great grandmother, women just stop and say, oh my gosh, you know, what is that? So really be careful with your vintage items. But again, wedding dresses, they're really special, but they could just be taking up room. See if your local museums are putting them on display, or make sure you go to a vintage shop and get some nice money for it. If you do decide to resell it, research the best vintage places in your area by area code. Get an appraisal from an expert in a museum that houses a costume selection. Really go to the expert in this area. Even I go to vintage experts. I don't claim to be an expert in this area. Now, how to profit for vintage? They'll either consign or give you cash outright. Again, they might offer between 30 to 50% of what they can sell it for in store. A Halston dress could be valued at $1,000. They'll sell it for $500 and you'll get 50%. So again, really find an expert in this field. There's an online place called Refashioner. You can send in a photo and they will let you know the value of it and what they would sell it for. Then you can send in the item and decide if that price is worth it to you. If you like more control over the process and you have more time on your hands, you can check on Etsy and eBay and sell it yourself. Just keep in mind that this requires opening your own store and checking in on it regularly, and you are in charge of shipping it out directly to the buyer. So someone like Refashioner, they're going to take a small percentage because they're taking all that time off your hands. Etsy and eBay is going to take more time because you have to ship it and track your selling. Vintage stores, in-store, oh my God, there's this beautiful store called Resurrection. They carry very high-end resale, vintage, and vintage trade shows like Manhattan. Again, do your research online and find your local vintage. Okay, real quick, Maggie, I'm going to finish up. Ladies, how to shop thrifty. You've taken in your bags. Now you've got some money to spend. You've got that store credit. So shopping resale stores is very different from department stores. There's only one of each style. So here are my quick tips on how to shop thrifty. Take stock before you go. Look at your closet, see what you're missing. Do you need a fabulous pair of gold sandals to go with that coral dress for your friend's wedding? Go in with a mission. I'm looking for strappy sandals. So create a desired shopping hit list. You looked at your closet. I don't have enough blouses. Okay, go look for some beautiful blouses. Set your price and budget before you go in. Just decide, I'm only going to spend that $95 store credit that I'm going to get, or go in with $100 and be like, you know what? I'm going in the store with $100. Let's see how much I can find. Like I told you, I went into Housing Works with $40 and I got 3 pairs of pants. Shop by item. Most resale shops are organized by item. They'll have a rack of dresses. They'll have a rack of tops. So shop by item. Shop by color. Look at the colors that you need in your closet before you go out so you can key in. I'm going to show you the beautiful ivory jacket I got. I can't even believe that I found it. Also shop by size. Some rounders are organized by size, which makes it much easier. And again, when you're shopping, love it or leave it. Try it on, and do you love it? Does it bring you joy? Does it make you feel fresh and confident? I featured these in my presentations before, and there's a reason. That red coat is vintage from the 1950s. I must have bought it 20 years ago. I pulled it back out of my closet 20 years later, and guess what? It is the coat that turned Tim Gunn's head. I walked into a museum and he said, "Well, who are you in that fabulous red coat?" I got it vintage. I think I paid $150 for it. That ivory on the right that you see I'm wearing, that is a high-end Alexander McQueen high-end designer. I found it at my local thrift shop for $150. It even came with a matching skirt. So shopping thrifty, you can find gorgeous pieces for, please, not even that ivory jacket would have been $2,500. So those are my tips, ladies. If you want to find me, you can go to my website. If you want to keep up with my style tips, follow me on Twitter. I'm always posting fun style tips to give you before you leave the house and get dressed. I post beautiful pictures on Instagram. For you girls that love Pinterest, oh my gosh, I have a plethora of shoes, handbags, trench coats, inspiration to just look at before you go shopping. And just to thank you, savvy ladies, for listening in. And thank you, Lisa and Maggie, for having me. I'm going to offer each of you complimentary 30-minute consultation via phone. It's a $95 value. You just have to email me at tanya@sterlonstyle.com, and I'll send you a link to schedule it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya. That was excellent. We really got some great tips. And thank you so much for offering those style consultations. We hope that everyone takes advantage of that. So I just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat box or email info@savvyladies.org. And we had some questions that came in. So we wanted to ask you, is there the expectation that everything has to be taken to the dry cleaners first when you're trying to resell?
Good question. I do recommend it if, yeah, it can't have heavy wrinkles, heavy stains, and they can't have odor. I don't know if you've ever noticed that when you've bought resale, it's a little, so I know it gets upset. It's like, oh, well, now I'm spending $7 to get it dry cleaned, and I'm only going to get it for how much, at the resale shop. Just make sure that, again, they don't have permanent wrinkles in them. They don't have very obvious stains. If it's an item like a coat and, there's obvious stains by the armpit or there's an odor, it's worth spending the $7 to dry clean a coat, because a coat is something you're going to get more at resale. So again, just use your discretion. They should be really not so wrinkled, not so stained, and not have an odor. And the store buyers, they do notice those things.
Okay. And we had some questions about selling through consignment shops. So if they don't sell, because I know you had mentioned there's kind of a time frame, what happens if they're not resold?
Oh, okay. You will get a receipt and a copy, and you just let them know from the beginning that if it doesn't sell, you will pick the items up and establish that at the beginning. So the items actually go back into your own hands after the consignment. You just have to make sure that you follow up with them in a timely manner, because if 6 months goes by and their policy is 3 months, they can't keep your stock for 6 months. They might end up giving it and donating it. So it's up to you, again, to be very clear with the policy. If their range is 3 months, you got to contact them once a month and say, hey, has it sold yet? And after 3 months, if that's their policy and it hasn't sold yet, you contact them and say, I'm ready to schedule and pick it up. And then you can set a date and time to pick it up. But if you let it sit there for 6 months to a year, be careful, because they can't have it in their store that long and they might get rid of it. So if it doesn't sell, by all means, you have every right to go pick it up, and then it's back in your possession, and then it's up to you. You might want to try a different store or an online resource.
Okay. And kind of related to that last one, Someone asks a question about seeing pictures on Instagram or Facebook of women who are trying to resell their own clothing. So they post pictures and have a caption with information. So what are your thoughts on that strategy?
Wow, interesting. I would only, if they're doing it on Facebook or Instagram, I would say if they're doing it as individuals, I would say don't buy from individuals posting. But what they're probably doing is using something like, oh, what's the other one? There's another one called Poshmark, Poshmark. Poshmark is like a Facebook. You take your own pictures, you upload it, you set your price, and you check if it's going to sell or not. So I tried it out. It's very much like a Facebook, and you have to keep up with it. I didn't have good experience with a couple buyers and sellers. I think it's a younger audience, more teenage to 20s, and they're very fast. Like they just want to post it and sell it, and isn't it exciting and new, and they want to post comments. So only if your personality is very much about, going on your phone a lot and downloading an app and always checking things, then I would recommend a Poshmark. I would only buy from individuals if they are selling through an existing app or an existing website like a ThredUp or a Tradesy. I wouldn't recommend buying from an individual because it's not as trustworthy. So always go through another website or another app, like an eBay or an Etsy, or like an app like Poshmark. So I would be careful of buying from an individual. Always do it through a website, because I actually had an incident on a woman through Poshmark and I had to report it, but it was good because Poshmark stepped in and they were able to regulate and kind of say, hey, this was the policy and you're not following it.
Okay. And our other question that came in is, over the years, I've acquired a lot of hand-me-down clothing. Most items are well made, and I'd say that they're mid-range, but they just don't fit me right, and they might even be a little dated. Do you think it's worth it to try and sell these well-made mid-range clothing, even though they're not quite in style right now and they're not considered vintage just yet?
Yeah. Good question. A little hard for me to determine that without seeing what they are. Um, Two things. Again, you never know. Just take the bag to your local reseller consignment and ask. There's nothing to be embarrassed about bringing a bag of clothes and showing a resale expert. And they will actually be able to look at the items. And what's nice is they'll actually be able to explain to you why they would take it or not. And then they'll be able to say, no, I'm sorry, they're just a little too dated for the selection I carry in my store. Or you can ask them, like, do you have another recommendation? Or is there another resale shop that you know that might take this range? Um, and again, the other option would be that online option where you send in the bag and they determine for it. But I would take it to a local store first and really get the opinion of a local expert from a local resale shop. And then you'll be able to know, oh, is it considered quote unquote dated or not? But if they're in good condition and well made, again, the discretion is up to the resale buyer. So I know it's a little bit of schlepping, but you'll get a really good opinion so that you can get a more clear answer to that question. I hope that helps.
Okay. Well, I think we're about out of time, but we want to thank you again, Tania, for such a great presentation. Thanks to everyone who joined. And just a reminder that you can email Tania@sterlonstyle.com for those complimentary 30-minute style consultations. And we hope everyone joins us again for future webinars. Thanks so much.
Great. Thanks for having me, Maggie. This was so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah.